Billie Winkle experienced firsthand the consequences of drinking and driving. At the age of 17, Miss Winkle's dreams were shattered by choices she made while drinking and driving. She is here today to share her story. Please join me in welcoming Miss Billie Winkle.
Hello, my name is Billie Winkle. I'm going to ask for your forgiveness ahead of time. If I seem nervous or if I stumble over my words, I have never told my story in front of a big group of people before. I'm currently 30 years old. I was born in Borger and I'm from Fritch. I hope that for most of you that was a wake-up call for you and that your wake-up call is nothing like my wake-up call. I was once like many of you. I didn't have a care in the world. I thought I was invincible and that nothing bad would ever happen to me. That happens to other people. And if it did happen to me, I could use my youth to save me. But it doesn't always work like that. It only takes a couple of seconds to make a bad decision that can affect you for the rest of your life. I'm living proof of that. I have to start at the beginning so you can understand that certain events impacted and influenced my decision making that led me down the wrong path. I came from a good family, a loving family. Of course we had problems. What family doesn't? I was 12 when I lost my father to a hunting accident at Lake Meredith. I have never lost anyone close to me before. Him and my mother had been married 24 years when we lost him. My mother was so devastated over losing my father, dealing with her own grief, she wasn't able to deal with mine. I didn't understand the emotions that were going on inside of me. I was never told that it's okay to be angry, sad, mad. I couldn't comprehend those feelings at that time. I didn't know how to talk to anyone about how I was feeling. About 6 months after that, my mother would start drinking and partying to fill her void. I would also start drinking at the age of 13 is when I took my first drink. Me and my friends had took some wine coolers from one of their moms, and I instantly liked the way it made me feel. For that moment, I didn't feel anything. I didn't have any emotions going on inside of me that I didn't understand. I was numb. I was 14 when I lost another loved one, my grandma. This intensified my feelings. I became more angry, and I didn't understand why all this was happening. I felt so surrounded by death, which led me to wanting to drink more. At 15, I was a freshman in high school. My mother worked nights, so my house was often the party house. I never once thought or even considered the consequences of my actions if anything had went wrong. I would often lie about going out, saying I was going to a movie or I was going to hang out with friends. I would make excuses why I didn't make it home on time. The real reason was I needed to sober up before I could go home. Every weekend was a party. I didn't care to be social, but I knew where there was a party, alcohol was involved. I was 16 when I picked up my first misdemeanor, the MIC, a minor in consumption. Me and my friends were at a park drinking, and I even lied to my mom, telling her that we were at the wrong place at the wrong time. It wasn't ours. I didn't even take it serious. I laughed it off. The next thing that impacted my life was losing my best friend. In Fritch, the people you start out with in kindergarten will be your peers for the rest of your school years. I had a best friend that I met in the 4th grade. I'm sure most of you have a best friend in this room that you don't know what you would do if they died today. I was 16 and it was my sophomore year, late September. After first period, someone tells me that Kayla had a fender bender, and I was left thinking, what did this girl do now? I go on to class. After second period, it goes from a fender bender to Life Star coming. I call my mom and I tell her I'm leaving school because my first instinct is to go where the accident happened. So me and a couple of my friends, we get into my truck, and as we pull up on the scene, we see them pulling her lifeless body out. They tried to revive her and wasn't able to do so. She was in the turning lane going to pick up another friend for school. A guy who'd been drinking and partying all night was heading home. He was trying to pass the 2 cars by going in the turning lane. He didn't see Kayla and he hit her from behind. If I didn't get drunk that night, it was the next night. I didn't understand why she had to lose her life so young. Again, I was so angry. She wouldn't be going to prom with us. We wouldn't see her smiling face every day in the hallways, and she wouldn't be graduating with us either. My grades started dropping. I started making excuses for myself that I didn't have a problem, when in all actuality, I had a problem. I changed my group of friends. I would drink by myself, saying I wanted a buzz before I got to the party, but that wasn't the case. I just wanted to stop the pain. I would continue like this. A few would notice the changes in my behavior, mainly teachers, but I would claim I was all right even though I wasn't. I was 17. It was June 29, 2004, and it changed my life forever. It was the summer before my senior year. I was supposed to go out to eat with my brother, but his friends showed up and he canceled on me. He tells us to go out with him instead. So me, his girlfriend, and one of my friends, we decide that we're gonna drink on the way to Borger. My brother's girlfriend gets us some beer. I'm driving, we ride around for a while. We pick up some food and we decide that we're gonna head home so we can continue to drink more. By this time, I've had at least 5 beers. As we head home, we're coming up on a stop sign, and for whatever reason, I make a split decision to run that stop sign. I didn't see the car that was coming, and I hit it. The rest of the night is a blur. I was the only one unresponsive in my vehicle. I'm taken to the hospital and released hours later. My mother takes me home. I wake up the next morning wishing so bad that it was a bad dream, but it wasn't. My mother tells me one of the people in the car didn't make it. She didn't have the heart to tell me that the other one in the car didn't make it either. I had to find that out when I went to the police station for questioning later that day. So not only did I take one life, but I took 2 lives. An elderly couple, someone's parents, someone's brother, sister, grandparents. I felt so awful. I felt like since I took 2 lives, I didn't deserve to live. So I tried to take my own life when we got home later that day. I tried to take a bunch of pills, but my mother stopped me. On August 3rd, 2004, I was indicted on 2 counts of manslaughter with a deadly weapon. The vehicle was considered a deadly weapon. They made my bail so high, I wasn't able to get out. My birthday was 17 days after that. They took me to court on my 18th birthday and told me I would be trialed as an adult. They were waiting and holding me until that moment. They let me finish my senior year from jail to an alternative school in Fritch. The bus would come and get me and take me back. I was kept in a room by myself away from the other students. My trial happens in September. I receive a 15-year prison sentence. And it just takes me by storm. I'm thinking, I'm 18 and I'm going to prison. The district attorney states he's making an example out of me, that my youth wasn't going to save me, and to send a message to all the other youth. Most of my family was at my trial. I look at them and I see how upset they are, tears in their eyes and their broken hearts. They're trying to console my mother. And in that moment, I realized that my actions not only affected me, but they affected everyone around me. They affected my family, and there wasn't nothing I could do about that. After my trial, I wasn't allowed to leave with school, so the teachers would come to me. I finished my senior year and got my diploma before I left for prison in November. I arrived in prison 8 hours away from home. With the deadly weapon on my sentence, I would have to do half my sentence before I was eligible for parole. I was going to do 7.5 years before I could ever get out of prison. I would be 25 then. I get my numbers. I'm now 1266467. I'm no longer an individual. My name doesn't matter. I'm another number in the prison system. The realization hits me that I was actually going to be in prison for years. The adjustment was tough. Prison's a whole different environment, and honestly, you have no choice but to get with the program. You have 2 options: do your time the easy way or do your time the hard way, and I chose the easy way. You're in there with people who did way worse than you. I kept thinking, I'm here for an accident, and some of these people intentionally killed others. Being away from my family was the hardest. My mother was my biggest supporter, as well as the rest of my family, who I still have the support of today. My mother, my grandparents, my aunt and uncle would try to come and visit me as much as possible. I would get contact visits with them because they're my immediate family. I'd get one hug and kiss at the beginning of the visit and one hug and kiss at the end of the visit. I'm sure you hear all kinds of stories about prison, but I can tell you it's pretty awful. You're told what to do when you can do it, when to sleep, when to eat, when to shower. I went to college to keep me sane, plus it made my time there feel like it wasn't wasted. I received my associates and got done more than halfway done with my bachelor's. I kept to myself and I stayed out the way. I picked a few friends whose interests were similar to mine. I'm not allowed to have contact with the victim's family. I sent a few letters through my lawyer expressing my remorse, and I never heard anything back, so I will never know if they forgive me, and that's just something I have to live with today. My 7.5 years comes up, I'm 25. I have my first parole, I'm denied due to the nature of my crime. I'm so upset, I'm staying out of trouble, I'm going to school. What else do these people want from me? I have to do another year before I'm eligible for parole again, which isn't too bad. It's actually a blessing because they can make you wait up to 5 years before you're eligible again. My second parole comes up, I'm 26. I'm denied again. Nature of the crime. And I'm feeling really hopeless. I'm thinking nature of my crime's never gonna change. I can't change what happened that night. I can't bring back those people. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. I'm trying really hard not to give up. Every time I'm denied parole, it tears my mother up. And I feel even more helpless because I can't tell her when I will be home. A few months after my second parole was denied, my mother's diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver due to her previous partying lifestyle. She got sick really fast and didn't make it long after that. June 22nd, 2013, she was holding on for me. And I had to tell her through the phone that I was gonna be okay and that she could let go. I let her know how much I loved her and I thanked her for never leaving my side. Soon after that, she takes her last breath. I wasn't allowed to go to the funeral. They don't care. They don't care about your emotions. They're not supposed to care about you. That's their job. I was so angry, but mostly I'm angry with myself because I put myself in this situation. I put myself where I was at. I had nothing to do to take away those feelings. I wasn't gonna be able to self-medicate this time. I had no way to get no alcohol. I was gonna have to deal with this time. It's part of life. I cried for her, I grieved for her because she wouldn't want me to hold on to this. My third parole comes up, I'm 27. I make it. I get to go home. As a part of my parole answer, I have to go to a 6-month treatment program. So I'm not allowed to really leave prison yet. It's called the DWI program. I'm there with women who have had 4 or 5 DWIs and no accidents. I can't help but to wonder why this had to happen to me. I finished the program October 22nd, 2014. I'm 28 years old now. I'm released to go home. My family comes and gets me and picks me up and brings me home. I ended up doing a little over 10 years in prison. I felt so overwhelmed. I realized I took life for granted. I missed 10 Christmases, 10 Thanksgivings, 10 Easters, which in prison, there's no celebrating the holidays. It's another day. I missed 10 years of no birthdays and lots of memories that I can't get back because life went on without me. I had to adjust to so much had changed. Technology had changed. There was no such thing as social media when I left. There was no such thing as social media when I left, and you don't have access to any of that in prison. I had never had a job before either. I still pay for the consequences of my actions till this day. It continues to affect my life. It's the first thing I think about when I wake up. It's the last thing I think about before I go to bed. Whenever I apply for a job, they do a background check, and I'm not approved because I'm labeled as a felon now. Despite all the bad, I'm currently employed at CVS, training to be a shift manager. I take time to enjoy my family today. It's the small things that matter. I'm slowly building and putting my life back together. I've currently been home 2.5 years. It's a struggle, but I remain hopeful. Today, I make a choice not to drink because of the path that it took me down. I don't get off parole till August 3rd, 2019. I have a strict guideline to follow, If I don't comply, there's a bed waiting for me in prison. I would like to end this by saying that now that I'm older and I'm looking back, I see all the signs. If I wouldn't have been too scared or too ashamed to talk to someone about how I was feeling inside instead of keeping it inside, maybe my path would have been different. I tell you this from experience. Talk to someone if you need to. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't try to make it go away with drugs and alcohol. Don't self-medicate. It's okay to talk to someone. That's what some of these people are here for. I would love to tell you not to drink or do drugs, but I've been in high school. But I will ask you to please think twice before you drink and drive. Each time you do, you're taking a chance on your life and someone else's. Thank you.
Billie, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that's difficult and challenging for you. You mentioned a little bit about your life in prison. Would you share with us your typical day, what you had to do each day while you were in prison?
Each day I wake up at 3:30. You have to get ready for clothes. Breakfast is at 4. And then after that you go to clothing exchange and you have to exchange your clothes if you want clean clothes to wear for the day. After that I go to work at 6. Lunch is at 11. I go back to work at 12. I go to dinner at 3, and at 4 I would go to college. And at 10 there's a bed book count that you have to be up for, and if you're not, you get in trouble.
So when were you allowed to do the things that you wanted to do?
On the weekend, it's very rare that you get time to yourself because you have so much different stuff going on that you're not allowed to do a whole lot.
You mentioned also that you find yourself still paying for still having consequences for your actions. In what ways are you still paying, even though you're out of prison? I didn't hear you say I'm free. You just kept saying I'm released. So in what ways are you still paying for those actions that you have?
I have to check in for parole every 3 months. I'm on a lower supervision because whenever I got out and I was on parole, I did the things I was supposed to. I was checking every month at first, and now it's just every 3 months. I'm not allowed to leave the state of Texas. I have to have permission. I have to choose who I surround myself with wisely. If I go to a restaurant, I'm not allowed to set at the bar. I have to make sure I sit in the dining area. And I have a breathalyzer on my vehicle that I have to pay for every month. And if I get one violation on that, I'll go back to prison. And it's very sensitive. I can't use alcohol-related mouthwash. There's just certain things that'll set it off. And since I am labeled as a felon, I can't, even if I was to say it was mouthwash, they're not gonna believe me.
So how has this affected your relationship with other people? If you have to be conscientious of where you're going and where you're spending your time, how does that affect you and your relationships?
A lot of my high school friends, they wrote me my first part of prison, but life goes on. You know, they went to college, they started experiencing life, they started their own families, and I wasn't there to be a part of that. And today I choose to hang myself around with my family, who are all here today, some of them. And I'm just really careful. I choose not to go to certain places that could even allow me to get in any trouble. I avoid certain stuff like that and just certain people in general.
And lastly, you encouraged everyone to really think about getting in a car if they've consumed alcohol or anything else. And so what would you have done differently?
What would I have done differently? I guess at the beginning, I would have reached out to someone about how I was feeling. Instead of self-medicating, instead of finding alcohol to take away my pain, I would have reached out to someone. It's okay to talk to someone. I see that today. And had I maybe got the counseling or talked to someone, that maybe my path would have been different today. If I wouldn't have been too scared or too embarrassed or too ashamed about what was going on with me, maybe I would have reached out to someone.
Well, again, we thank you so much for coming out and sharing your story. So Sandy, how about showing one more round of appreciation? We'd also like to extend a thank you to the family for coming out and showing support to Billie. We think that she is an amazing example and really been beneficial to us in this program.